So what is a modern elder? If everyone is asking me that question, what are you talking about? What is a modern elder? Well, about baby boomers, this is about baby boomers, right? And today, 10,000 people will turn 65. Think about that. And over the next 12 years, every day over the next 12 years, 10,000 people are going to be turning 65. So I started thinking about that, and what does that mean? How do you become an elder? How do you become a modern elder? And that's really what I want to talk a little bit about. When I think about modern elderhood, I think about my childhood and what helped me get to where I am today. The world I grew up in was a yes world, and I lived a yes world and a no life. I had parents that always said yes, that always gave me permission to do whatever I needed to do. I had a huge appetite. I was very curious about everything around me. And so they allowed me to live what I call a yes life in a no world. And a no world is a world that each of us is very familiar with in different ways. So that environment allowed me to really connect to this idea of being alive today. I was really into nature. I was always going outside, always jumping on my bike, always jumping on my mini bike. I was a big fan of Evel Knievel. That probably dates me. But I was a big fan of his. I think that environment also allowed me to connect to this idea of myself through my family and through the experience of belonging. It also allowed me to connect to others in the experience of acceptance. So those three things I grew up with, this idea of being alive, of belonging to something, and being accepted. So when I turned 50, I decided, that was 4 years ago, I decided that I wanted to do something I hadn't done in 30 years, and that was ride a horse, but not just for a few minutes. I decided to go to Central Mongolia and ride a horse for 2 weeks, 8 hours a day, really exploring the culture there and really beginning to understand what they call an Adam festival. It's a festival that they have celebrated for the last 800 years, and I decided that I could do this. Everybody around me said I couldn't do it. They thought I was going to die. I didn't, actually survived, but it was probably one of the most transformational moments in my life. It was when I really connected to this idea of becoming an elder. I had an epiphany while I was there. And so for me, I discovered that becoming an elder was really about releasing your time-bound ego, who you think you need to be, right? So I grew up going to the right schools, doing the right things, doing everything that my parents told me and my community told me I needed to do to be successful. Well, as a modern elder, you're releasing all of that. And I didn't discover this until I was 50, right? In Mongolia, 8 hours a day on a horse. So you're doing that this is my epiphany, to rediscover your timeless self, who you are, right? So who you are that person who affects others positively, that person who understands that time is about experience, not about a number. So I'm 54. 54 is not the new 34. 54 is 54. I accept who I am. I am proud of who I am. I've gone through a lot to become who I am today, and so that's really what this epiphany is all about, is discovering that you have to release that ego and to really discover who you are and who you are and who yourself is. I've worked over 30 years in the aging services space, and one of the things that I've discovered in that time is that a lot of our elders are not comfortable with what I just told you. They live in isolation, they live in fear. Isolation is something that I've studied for over 4 years in the organization, one of the organizations that I worked with, and it's detrimental to your health. Being isolated is the equivalent of smoking 7 cigarettes a day. It is deadly. So it's important for us to stay connected to each other, especially our seniors. And so when I talk about rediscovering my timeless self, there are millions of other people in this country who aren't doing that because they're not living in environments where they feel loved, valued, and at peace. I grew up in an environment where I felt loved every day. I felt that I was valued. I felt that I was at peace. In spite of what was going on around me, my parents, my grandparents, they all made sure that I felt that. People aren't feeling that today, and we have to make sure that we help them do that. 17% of Americans over 65 are isolated. And isolated is defined as having at least one quality relationship with another person. So that statistic is pretty bad. 51% of Americans over 75 live alone. So I'm not saying that if you live alone, you're lonely or you're isolated, but more likely than not, you are. So when you look at those statistics, and they're growing every day, it's important for us to understand that there's an opportunity that each of us in this audience has to support organizations, nonprofit, private, public, that are creating environments for people that feel valued, loved, and at peace. It's up to you to make that connection, to find those organizations, and there are many of them out there that need lots of help because, like I said, the numbers are not getting any better. Food insecurity is through the roof for seniors. Housing, there are many other issues that they're dealing with and they're facing with. But the one thing that each of you can do is this idea of isolation and helping connect to someone that's not connected right now. Because like I said, it's detrimental to your health. So the reason it's important for you to do this is because if you are supporting an organization that helps them feel loved, valued, and at peace, you are actually helping them discover their timeless selves. And this is something that I didn't realize was important until I was in Mongolia. I was on that horse 8 hours a day trying to discover, why am I here? What is this all about? Why did I feel such a need to do this? But after I did it, I understood why. It was really my way of reconnecting to nature and discovering who I was in ways that I hadn't done before, or ways that I had done as a child and had forgotten all the way from childhood to now. Thank you.